Hello and welcome um, to my YouTube channel. And please, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Check the other videos. I am very sure you're going to see something there that you will like, because this is like a one-stop place for a lot of things: health, faith, scripture. I even have movie talks or movie musings there. So it's a lot of things, like even hair care, fashion, and all whatnot. So you always find something that you find that will be interesting enough to you. Something you can share with somebody, even if it's not something that you personally use, but you would just recall someone that is interested in that. So please share and subscribe. Thank you. Okay, so where are we going today in terms of conversation? I like to have conversations with us. When I say us, myself and everyone else who cares enough to and is patient enough to listen. These are conversations that, we ought to be having as human beings, as people who care for our environment, care for other people, care for what is going on. These kind of conversations were very common in ancient times. People connected, people talked, like had deep conversations. Like they would start from somewhere and then they make sure they go deep. Unlike today, where people avoid deep conversations. Being deep way back in ancient times was just like it was like you it's been necessary for you to know how to communicate. It was communication. Like, depth has to be in your communication. It has to be deep. It has to be insightful. It has to be something that people hear and they are motivated to do something, to take action, to take the right steps in the right direction. And we don't have such conversations often. Most of the time, the conversations we have are pretty much personal, things that we like about something, things that are of personal interest to us, right? As opposed to communal or general interests, as the case may be. And I'm not sure what I want to name this conversation that I'm going to be having with us, but I believe I'll be calling it highlighting the difference between the past and the present as it relates to advancement, as it relates to maturity, as it relates to innovation and invention. And this is coming on the heels of our generation having this arrogant take on how we are more advanced than our ancestors. Where our ancestors were very primitive, and I'm like, there are just some things you don't even say. I mean, the Bible says that if a fool keeps quiet or stays silent, he or she will be mistaken for being wise, right? I mean, why would anyone say that about their own past, right? About their own, talk about how they were primitive, they were this. Well, my response to that in this conversation is that maybe yours were primitive, mine wasn't. Okay, and there are archaeological evidence to show that. Of course, usually there are archaeological evidence to show that across the world, but you know how it is. It is what you have that you will honor, you will choose to honor, right? So if you don't think you come from innovation, you don't think you come from, you're not a descendant of people with deep wisdom in construction, people in deep, like I don't even know how some of us even came to that conclusion that our ancestors, we were more intelligent than our ancestors. Yeah, try building a pyramid, for example. Like, many people have yet to figure out how the pyramids was made, and somehow we are more intelligent. But I'm sure that in those days when those pyramids were there, people could generally know how the pyramid got there, how it was built, in what way they were built. They were very, very organized then. They were very, very deliberate then. There were people, I don't know. It's just sad when you see how far we have, as humans, how far we have fallen. It's a fallen world, but the people have also fallen in their thoughts. Yeah, the fall of thoughts, the fall of deep thoughts. Because see, if you don't practice deep thinking, you will not receive deep inspiration about your work. For instance, people who are deep thinkers, they are the ones that give innovative ideas. I mean, I used to look at, the truth is, no matter how beautiful an architectural design is today, if it does not have an element or a theme, okay, or a splash or a sprinkle at least of ancient design copied from whether historical pictures or archaeological digs, it just looks, I don't know, bland. Like, when you are a student of history and you see houses, you see things that they created, things that they made, you begin to see what you call modern innovation with different eyes. And you're like, is this the best we can do? No, really. This is the best we can do. We haven't improved. We practically nosedived. Hello. Like, we practically nosedived. Which is why some influencers are busy chanting about organic living, which is a good thing, or more like climate change precautionary measures, if you may. Things we must do, things we were already doing. We were already doing it, especially in places like Asia and Africa. These things that they are screaming about that we should all be doing. Being, what is it called now? Reducing the amount of digging we do into the earth, reducing the amount of fuel we use, and so on and so forth. Like all those climate change talks they do, I hardly pay attention to those things. I mean, I look at it, I'm like, the burden of that whole thing is placed on Africa. So how do you expect me to even pay attention? Because I'm wondering, oh, what are you doing about it? Imagine talking about, climate change plans, and you're flying all over the place in planes and jets, and like, didn't someone ever tell us to practice what we preach or something? Like, you don't expect me to take you seriously when you're doing that, because then I'm thinking, what is your plan? I know it's not a good one, but what is it exactly? Because it's not looking good. I'll use these phones that we use as example, because see, I just want to show that our ancestors were wiser than us in more ways than one. The reason why we have this habit of saying, oh, we discovered something, and then we now realize we didn't discover anything. It was already discovered. The reason it's not depleted is because they do thorough testings of these things to know how this thing is shiny and fantastic, but how is it going to impact the environment? And usually is linked to spiritual investigations, which is why you hear people say things like, oh, that's superstition. No, it wasn't superstition. It was science meeting spirituality. Science and spirituality were one, until like this dividing of religion from the states happened with science or technology and spirituality. Technology and spirituality were one. They were one. That, you know why they're one? That's the reason why ancient technology cannot be replicated. If you do not connect what needs to be connected, it would no. It is like you having your phone and you refuse to connect it to a socket, and you say, oh, it's superstition. I don't know, because you don't know how it will charge. You just know that there is one thing on the wall, and you just connect it there. And you just flip a switch. And maybe you have no idea how that works. And that's what we do in this current generation. Past generation, they question things, but they don't question it from a place of, if I don't know all the details about something, then that thing is invalid. No, they question things from the standpoint of, is it safe to continue on this path? Is it sustainable to continue on this path? They were very concerned about how posterity would judge them. They were aware that there is a judge over all that would judge our thoughts, our words, and our deeds. And so they were very careful not to do things that would reduce their going to paradise chances. And that's why those things we claim, we as the new generation, the modern generation, what we invented, you see that an advanced looking form of it. Just wait. I mean, I saw prototype of airplanes and helicopters from hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. And I'm like, what? Wow. So whatever we have today, I've found long ago that whatever it is we have today as technology and as innovation they are resurrections of things that were used way back then. Because when they destroy civilizations, they destroy civilizations. And so everything that used to be in that place or in that kingdom or in that empire is gone. How many languages are lost today, right? How many cultures, and even landmass are lost today. Many kingdoms are lost. Not all the kingdoms that were established since the beginning of humankind do we still have here. No. Why? They were lost, mostly destroyed. And we see and claim that, oh, we were the smartest ones to ever live in human history. Really? Who told you that? Yeah, really? Well, let's try and replicate what they did. Those so-called primitive things they did. Let's try and replicate them and see. Even these mud huts that some people are always insulting, using as a slur against Africa. I dare your construction workers to build one, a sturdy one, right? One that will hold. If you can't do something, you're not. Maybe you should just not say anything, perhaps. You can't do it. It's becoming a lost art now. And someone like me, I worry because if this climate change and global warming is a thing, I'm sorry. The housing idea that the Europeans brought to Africa is not helping us here. Like the idea is just not, let me use Nigerian slang, it's not idearing. No. Can you imagine living in a house that, can you imagine living in a house where it's like the weather is against you? Is that supposed to be innovation? What's the innovation in coming from outside? It's cold outside and you come in to your house and it's cold. But when it's hot, you come into your house and it's hot. Fan, fan blows hot air, for crying out loud. It is the air that is around that it blows. People of God. What is the innovation in that? It's new to this terra firma. Yes, but it is not an innovation that is beneficial to the people there. But of course, it was painted to look like that is what everybody of enlightenment. You see, if I hear that word enlightenment again, I don't know what I'm going to do. The way they said it, I'm sure. And they somehow, I think, no, I don't think really. I strongly believe that the marauders who came to Africa, they were into witchcraft. You can't convince me otherwise. They were into satanism and witchcraft. What is witchcraft? Basically, if we look at the arts, the definition, the artistic definition of witchcraft is manipulation. Witchcraft simply means manipulation. Of course, there are advanced interpretations and definitions of witchcraft, but yeah, but the simplest form, before you go superstition, is manipulation. The ability to convince a person who has the best deal ever that they have the worst deal. You convince them that the best that they have is the worst. And then you convince them that the worst that you are bringing is the best. That right there is manipulation, and that is witchcraft. And I pray that Africa will be delivered from bewitchment because, oh yeah, it feels like we're bewitched. May Jehovah God help us. It's sadly hilarious when you think about it. Like, is this supposed to be a joke? You look at some things and you when you allow yourself to think about it, like, is this supposed to be, whoever did this has a very dark sense of humor, which is not funny at all, except to the person who is doing it, of course. Because what is that? Why? You know what? I don't even care about the why. They managed to convince Africans that mud hut was just was not civilized. It was savage. They convinced us of that. And see, the lesson I learned from that is, if you're not careful, you'll be manipulated into self-sabotage. Generally speaking. Generally speaking. That you have it good does not mean that you're not going to face challenges that will try to rob you of the good that you have. Because we really had it good in Africa. Before marauders came in, we had it good. It wasn't the best, understand, but we had it good compared to what we have now. Now that we have the so-called civilization, are we the better for it? We aren't. So who benefited from that whole transitioning from so-called savagery into who decided that what the West and the Europe decide is actually the best for all? Like, who decided who was first world? Who decided who was second? Like, when was the examination held? Like, who are the panel of judges and the examiners? You know, who judged this and then decided that, some people are third while some others are second and the others are first? Like, ew. Really? I just made up my mind once because I'm grateful for this deep thinking I allow myself, because that's the thing. You have to allow yourself to think deeply. And the reason why some people don't think deeply is because it's painful to do so. It's painful. And people don't, I think our generation does not like pain at all. It's the reason why, for example, people have abused cesarean operation. Cesarean operation is abused now. Before, cesarean operation was used to save lives, but now it's used for the convenience of both the medical practitioners and the patient, or shall we say the patients and those who are of influence in their life as well. Those who are signatories, like, people you call and say, oh, who signs for this person as they go in for this medical procedure and stuff like that. Somebody can just decide that, they don't want to go through natural bath. Now, when you mention natural bath, you have people screaming, what? Cesarean operation is also natural. Oh, really? Like, can we there's definition, there are words for everything, so as to avoid confusion. Why would we? Cesarean is cesarean, and maybe we should call it non-cesarean birth. But I guess even if we call it that, there are some people who are going to get sensitive over that as well. Now, I understand that some people might be using these as a sort of pain Olympics or something like that, but I think it doesn't make any humane sense, or neither is it logical or reasonable to dismiss a conversation based on only one perspective. We have to be patient enough to view and even think of other scenarios or other, how will I put it now? Other insights to something. That there is one negative insight about something does not mean that that thing is completely useless. It just means that we need to look at all sides and all aspects of this thing and see what we can do to reduce the negative impact. And that is what we didn't do in this modern age. We didn't do that. Oh, we found whatever it is they used to make phones these days. Let's just go digging and just go digging and just go digging. And somehow we just noticed that the places they go digging, people are dying in hundreds there. And it's hardly reported. And you are wondering, is this how we are better than our ancestors? Isn't that a sick joke right now? Is that how we're better? Where every time you invent something, people die in hundreds of thousands in the same place. And the worst part is that they have everybody at the jugular because we don't even know what life, we don't even want to think of life without a phone. Yes, I am using a phone, but I'm going to use this phone as long as I can. I'm not. We also waste things. In our modern age, we waste things. I get upset every time they say, oh, there is the newest edition of something phone out there. And you see people scrambling to buy that new edition. Meanwhile, you bought the phone you had before this latest one came out. You just got it probably a few months ago. So now that the supply is outrageous, or the demand as it is it's become addictive, right? It's like modern conveniences have become it has become an addiction. I know how an addiction is. You know it's bad to waste things, but you just keep doing it. Like gluttony, for example, you don't need that food. You don't need that much food, but you just keep eating it and eating it. You want to eat sugar, you overdo that one too. Waste. We're very quick to trash things. Obsessed with always getting something new. If brand new phones were coming out every day, some of us, even if not a lot, will be buying phones every day. We bought a phone yesterday, we'll buy one today too. As if it's candy or something. And that's the thing about candy, you're not even supposed to have it every day. But and because the supply is beyond what is best for nature, what is best for a world that wants to preserve itself, you find that war mysteriously breaks out in the places where the ingredients for making your phone, my phone, they have to practically, it's like blood. The blood of human beings is what is used to wet the earth in order to dig out what is needed to make your phone. The phones that we use. Imagine, because the reason is simple, because we're wasteful. Nothing is wrong with phones, but we're obsessed with always getting something new. now it's no longer about necessity. It's now about status symbol. I must use the latest. Okay, you must use the latest. Perhaps you should sell the previous one you had or something. I don't know. Or give it out, especially for those who don't have phones. I'm just saying. Isn't that how we preserve the environment? We don't preserve the environment by changing phones like we change clothes. Huh? Oh, and that's also another one. Clothes. Clothes. Please, what are you doing with hundreds pair, so many pairs of shoes? What are you doing with those? I mean, I heard people will say things like they have 300 pairs of shoes, and I'm thinking, that's that's a very interesting collection. Why do you have that much? Whatever for. And you would think people like that would stop, but for what? Well, no. It's that thing about getting the latest of this and that. Look, when you're a deep thinker, number one, impressing other people is the last thing on your mind. It wouldn't be a thing you consider because people are likely to die from a decision you make. And so being a people pleaser is just not on the agenda for you. It's just not on the agenda for you. Like pleasing people, like really? How is so it doesn't matter if few more people, in quote, few more people lose their lives as long as you get the latest something, whether latest clothes, latest gadgets. Why? Our ancestors only created things out of necessity, and they made sure they were moderate with it. They had a culture of not throwing things away, which means that they repair things. Now, if your phone has a fault, repair it. Like, I have a phone, it has its issues, and it's because the company which is why when I was buying a new phone, I had to. I had to because the one I was using was glitching. It's like the expiry date is just getting, lesser and lesser. God forbid we get to a point where your phone expires in 1 year, but you can't recycle it, right? I have no problem with the expiry dates, What I have issues with is the burden of supply on our environment. The burden of supply on our environment. Need I say that again? The burden of supply on our environment. The burden that is demanded. The burden of supply that is demanded from our environment, from the earth. The burden of supply that is demanded from our earth. Most of us don't want to think about that. I just want to use the latest, so people can see, and the people you don't even think should fall for it. Religious people as well, people in the household of faith, so that people can see the glory of God in me. Honey, the glory of God is not expressed through the latest gadget or clothes. So I don't know. It is your glory you want to advertise at that point in time. The glory of God is not in those things. It's felt and is experienced. That is the glory of God. It has substance. It touches all your senses and every aspect of your being. That is glory. Not in your phones and your gadgets, so you can say, oh, I'm using the, and they now, honestly, I cringe when I see people post things on social media, and you see things like posted from, uh, uh, they mention a brand of a phone, which is um, brand, the brand name and the well, the name that is given to that particular device at that point in time. It's interesting. I'm thinking, what is this? Oppression Olympics? Status Olympics? Power Olympics? What? What is it? I certainly hope that's not showing, and thankfully it can be turned off. And that's the thing. Those things can be turned off, but of course not. Why should I turn it off if people can see that I'm tweeting from this brand and number of phone? Huh? We don't have a culture of repairing things. We just have a culture. And then it puts a burden on the economy, because when you don't have a maintenance culture, that's been self-destructive. People will rather buy new clothes than fix their old ones. Why? I mean, if you're worried about, oh, it's an old, the design of those clothes are old. Well, like, go on Pinterest or something and look for designs, changing one design to another without even cutting the clothing a lot of times. And you come up with fantastic. The thing is, where there is a will, there is a way. And they say necessity is the mother of invention. And that's why our ancestors were very innovative, because they always thought about, how do we not waste things? The things we say we discover today that we are just using, like one is using water on a daily basis, mineral resources were just, and we say, oh, because we found those things, we're forgetting that they left it for us. They didn't say we should use everything. They're saying you leave something as well. Are we even leaving anything for the future generation? Are we? I seriously doubt it, because is it if you're planning on leaving something for future generation, you will not be wasteful, right? Number one, you would, when you are using a device, you make sure that at least try. It's can be tough. I don't just go to the market, for example, when I need something to buy. No, I look at proximity of production. The closer the production or manufacturing site it is to me, geographically, socially, nationally, culturally, the better. In other words, if there is a product that is manufactured in the next street, okay, in the street after the one I live in, I'd rather buy the one that is made on my street than buy the one of next street, because I'm not going to sabotage. I'll be sabotaging the economy of my own street if I am buying into the product of other people's street. No disrespect to them. You understand what I mean? It's just as charity begins at home, is what I was taught. And many of us were taught that too. In other words, like, look at who is doing something. When you need somebody, when you need services, look at the closest people to you first, because for one, it's even economical. For two, you are encouraging people in your immediate environment to be productive. You are encouraging them to maximize their potentials. It's only if there isn't something similar to that on my street, that is when I'll go to the next closest to me. That's only when I'll do that. Sadly, everyone else is doing it. This thing I just said, but Africa, they convince you that, or you convince yourself both ways. You convince yourself that whatever is brought from Europe will always be better. Now, I would say their products are good, but they're not always the best for us. Just like houses that was introduced to us during colonialism were pretty, they're good. I'm living in one of those, but they're not the best for our environment. The mud houses, I'm glad I'm back there right now. The huts that we live in, that we lived in. And it's interesting that across Africa, you find that mud was commonly used. Stones were also used as well. Polished stones were used. But they were not the same. They were adapted to, I guess, the land itself. Like, what is the height of the land? Is it below sea level or above sea level? The environment. They experimented before they settled on huts in some places. In places where castles were built, right? In places in Africa where castles were built hundreds of years ago, centuries ago, were castles, and you see them, some of them still standing today, that were built. They were built not because someone feels like building a skyscraper and they just built one. No. It was specific to the need, to the shelter need of the people in that region. What are the three most important needs of a person? Food, clothing, shelter. The shelter has to be shelter in. It's not just something that encloses you. You're not trying to live in a prison or something. You're trying to get shelter. Shelter should be something that protects you from the elements, not something that exposes you to the elements. I mean, if it's hot out there and you walk into your house, your so-called house, and it's hot indoors, sorry, that is not shelter. That is an enclosure. No matter how beautiful it is. Heck, it could even be made of glass for all I care. It could be made of pure glass for all I care, but if it is not protecting you from the elements, then you don't have a shelter. What you have is an enclosure, a pretty one, yeah, but an enclosure no less. Can you imagine feeling heat when you are not outdoors? Or feeling hot when you are not outdoors? But these mud houses were such that when it's hot out there, it's cool indoors. That is shelter. Ladies and gentlemen, that is shelter. When it's cold out there, it's warm indoors. And that's why people will rush, to get indoors, because they want to get the protection. They want to get shelter. That was the shelter tailored for that environment based on research. Based on research, trial and error, until they settled on huts. Honestly, when I have my way, I'm living in one. Please. This idea of living in a house that needs insulation, when there are shelters designed specifically to suit this environment that I'm living in. At the end of the day, like psychologists will tell you, you always have to look inwards. It is not different in every other aspect. You have to look inwards and you have to look around you as well. Like, what do you have? Whatever it is you have around you is embedded with what you need. For food, clothing, and shelter, you need not go so far out. The food you need to survive in that environment grows in that environment. Okay? What you need to make clothing in that environment is also in that environment. What you need as shelter is also in that environment. It is how the Almighty God has designed it. But you see, when people have been inflicted or afflicted with low self-esteem, they'll always be made to believe that what they have is inferior, while what everybody else is superior. And that's why you would hear Black people call themselves third world. Like, I just thought to myself recently, I didn't just think to myself, I think God delivered me from that. No, I don't think it. Now I'm certain that it's deliverance. Deliverance from cultural attacks, an attack on your culture, on your God-given culture. And when I say God-given culture, I don't mean the spiritual aspect of things. I mean the language. Okay? The clothing. The method of shelter. The method of education. How were we educated? Why were we getting that kind of education? To what end were we getting that kind of education? And that's why a lot of Black people are eloquent, but their eloquence is not converting to development in Africa. And even in the immediate environment. It's like whatever it is you learn today benefits you and you alone. And then we have even gotten to that age where even what you learn sometimes, a lot of times, will not be beneficial to you personally, which is why a lot of people, young educated people, are unemployed. So even the personal benefit is not even there. Is that not a sick joke? Which I don't find funny, really. Where a person goes to school for years and years, and you're told that is the best way to live life. Have education in quote, and then you have this education and you can barely feed yourself because, and then they tell you, oh, your field is highly competitive. What the heck does that even mean? The way we're created is such that everybody can practice in their own talent without need for competition. Like they say, the sky is wide enough for all the birds in this world to fly. without their wings hitting that of other birds. Like a bird, every bird on this earth, if they decide to fly at the same time, their wings will not, crash into the wings of another bird. Another bird. But we humans, in our modern wisdom, in quote, we don't think that. No, of course not. We don't think that at all. We want to be the biggest in the industry instead of being the best in what we do as individuals. Like, you look at yourself, you think, like you that's the time you have to stay within yourself, because that's how you create. You look within yourself. You maximize your talent and potential. You look, okay, so how do I create this? What if I do it this way? What if I make it look that way? And you do that. That uniqueness, that the way you design things, the way you create things is what somebody needs to appeal to their needs, right? It's why some people don't have all their clothes is not in one brand and one brand alone. You check people's wardrobe today, you find at least 3 different brands of clothing there. Why? Those 3 brands, they have all the wardrobe needs of this person. It's like when a person has a shirt, for example, you get a shirt from one brand and get skirt from another brand. Why didn't you just buy the skirt from that same brand you bought your shirt? It's about what appeals to you. It's about what you prefer. Like, this one appeals to my senses. Do you see what I'm saying? Where people would have 3 or more different brands in their wardrobe. So one person is not the one that is getting all the customers when it comes to that particular product or that particular industry. And that's why God created us to have different tastes, so that everybody will be fed, everyone will be cared for, everybody would have someone that will want to buy from them. If we all had one taste and one taste alone, we're only going to, that is where monopoly comes from, where only one person can meet that need. I remember, like, there is a particular place where I prefer their cake. For me, so far, their cake is like the best. Fruit cake, the best I've ever tasted. I made few fruit cakes myself. Well, God gave me the strength and the courage to do it. But this particular one, from this particular quick service restaurant, fantastic. I mean, like, if you don't get there fast enough, you won't find it there. It's just what it is. Like, and they've managed to maintain the quality for a long time. Now, I don't like any other thing, like every other thing they make in that place. No. The cake is the only reason I go there. Now, if I want the pastries, I go to another place. Now, that another place has cake, but their cake is just not it for me. See what I mean? So it's dividing. I that's what I often tell customers I buy groceries from and raw food stuff from. They see me and they're like, oh, you're buying this from another person. And I say, I'm sharing it. I bought from them. I'm here buying from you too, aren't I? And they're like, oh, okay. It's like it's this ancient proverb from Southwest Nigeria that says one person that only one person eating and eating the profit of everything and everyone is going to stunt the growth and the expansion of the community. One person does not eat. I'm trying to interpret it because it's sometimes very tough to interpret these things. One person does not eat. Only one person does not benefit and expand the environment. I mean, we see it. Don't we see it where one person it's just crazy and it's very childish because it's only children you see those kind of behaviors in them where they already have a snack in their hand, okay, or a toy. Then the moment they see another child holding a snack different from their own or even the same, mind you, they are more focused on what that other one has than the one in their own hand. And that's what I see these accusations as, acquiescing or acquiring other people's company. It's a little mean, in my opinion. It's a little mean. Why would you want to buy someone's business? Like that just that that is almost like buying a person now. Like what difference is it between that and saying, "No, I want to buy your family"? God forbid, I'm not going to buy someone's family. But see, because when you buy a business, you buy the people in it as well. Their essence is in there and you buy it. How about starting your own? And the crazy part is that we're not even talking about something completely different. No, we're talking about in the same industry. In the same industry, you are doing almost the same thing as the other person. Maybe you're producing chalk, for instance. Maybe yours is producing chalk. The other person is also producing chalk. You now say you want to acquire the chalk company of the other person because you are afraid and frightened of competition, or you're just so greedy, you want all the profit, the major profit of that particular chalk industry, for example, to yourself. That is a very selfish thing. Very, very selfish. Very selfish. When I notice people are like that, I try not to patronize them. Whatever for. Why? Because that would be encouraging them. Because if they don't have, and I think that is something we should do. When you care more about when you want to heal the world and make it a better place, and you want to fix what has been done to the world, like the Earth song of late Michael Jackson and the Heal the World by late Michael Jackson. You want to do that. Anyone who has inhumane practices, if whether it's legal or not, is not the point. We're not talking about legalities now. We're talking about morality. Is it moral to covet something that belongs or is owned and controlled or supervised by another person? Is it? It isn't. It isn't in any way, shape or form a moral thing to do to covet what someone has. Of course, there is a legal process to acquiring someone else's property, acquiring someone else's whatever. It seems legal. But if your moral standing is you just don't have it at all, I'm not patronizing you because I'm not going to be funding immorality. Let me say that again. I will not be funding immorality in any shape or form. So if you are dishonest, you are covetous, you're greedy, you're ruthless. I don't care whether you call it business. You can call it business. You can call it business and I can call it greed. Okay? Since we are so good at naming things, that's fine. You can name it what you want. I will call it what I want as well. And it's based on what I call it that will determine if I want to be a part of it or not. That is what we should do when we care about righteousness, when we care about morality, when we care about humanity. Because you can't have humanity without morals and righteousness and a sense of justice and contentment. See, contentment with godliness is of great gain. Great gain, great. Not just gain, but the gain is great. When you are content and then godliness is in it. Wow. But no. For some people, it's just no, because they want to be big and great and they want it now and they want it their own way. I wish it's only themselves they harm when they do these things, but unfortunately it isn't. And it's just sad. I can go on and on this one, but I'll just say economic boycott. Like, I don't follow people like that online. And sometimes when I follow them, look, I can always unfollow. If you say, and it has nothing to do with their skill set or their professionalism or how good, no, I'm not. For me, I'm still with the school of thought that your attitude matters. Your talent and your behavior, hand in hand. You might not even have talent, which technically there isn't anyone that doesn't have talent. It's just undiscovered talent. It's just a problem of undiscovered talent, not a problem of lack of talent. For me, I prefer to be with people that are moral, that they maintain the moral standing they have and they build on it. Excuse me. They maintain the moral standing they have and they build on it. Okay? They maintain the righteousness they have and they build on it. They solidify it, they strengthen it. For them, it's a journey. They're taking a journey in righteousness. They're taking a journey in morality. They're taking a journey for the sake of humanity and for the sake of God. So they do these things. It's not about the skills or the talent. I'm not interested in those. Neither should we. Like, what other talents do we need in this modern age, please? Like, is there anything else we need right now that we don't already have? I think we already have what we need. There isn't anything we need that we don't have. We just have to learn to preserve them and to protect them. That's all. Instead of allowing those things to be destroyed or to be depleted. So if you notice that a person, if you are for righteousness and morality and for humanity, anyone or establishment you notice that is not following morality, is not following, try and avoid them. And please, let's have a culture, a maintenance culture. Not a culture of always replacing things anytime they have issues. Like, if your phone, I'm going to go back to the phone because it's what we use a lot and it's what I'm using to communicate with you right now, right? If your phone has problems, take it to the repair guy that is good. There's always someone that is skilled to fix the phone for you. That, or go to buy from companies that have recycling policies for a greener earth. In other words, if your phone has an issue and you want to change it for a fee, they can ask you which brand can you swap with, and they'll be like, oh, you can swap with this brand, this particular phone, this new one. Like, okay, this new one costs so and so amount, but because you are trading in your phone, we're going to reduce it by maybe 20, depending on the phone, 20 or even 50%, right? Like, buy from company that has recycling and study what does their recycling look like. Is it that they just collect this old thing and just dump them somewhere? Yeah, your guess is as good as mine as to where the somewhere is. Did they just dump it somewhere? Or they reuse those things? Tell me that is recycling. That right there is recycling, where, they collect old things from their customers and reuse those things, thereby reducing the pressure of supply on our earth. But every time the phone has issues and we're already literally going back to dig up another chunk to make something new, and then you replicate that behavior in hundreds of people across the world, thousands of people across the world. What happens? Are we even thinking that what will happen if all of a sudden this thing that we're using to make phones ceases to exist? What's going to happen then? We'll notice that we'll adjust, we'll move on. The world didn't perish. Well, people did perish, but the world did not go extinct when COVID-19 happened. So I don't think the world will go extinct if we don't get to change our phone every year. I'm just saying. And that we are forced to have to fix the ones we have, okay, with something that is not harming both the environment and humanity. Just saying. Just saying. Like, the phone in my hand right now, I'm prayerfully sustaining it. You don't understand, because I know that the companies probably have, I don't know what they have. Let me not even go to what they have. I don't care what they're doing. I do care what they're doing. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been talking for an hour plus right now. But I'm saying, since I'm aware to a certain degree what they are doing, I focus more on what to do about it than focus on what they're doing. In other words, I am praying on my phone to be fixable, because I've experienced how it is that you can have a phone and it's just not fixable. And they'll tell you, oh, the material for it is no longer there. And you know that this phone is still usable if they can just change something in it. That's it. You don't need an entire new phone. So I'm always praying that the Lord should preserve it and sustain it. And whatever it is that will make it expire or make it toxic will be removed in the name of Jesus Christ. That is my own contribution to the earth. Honestly, I wish we could, have a bloodless or something that does not require bloodshed in terms of technology, what we're using as technology. But alas, here we are. Here we are. Let us love our neighbors as we love ourselves. And let's be content. People shouldn't die because we want to use something brand new when we have old ones that are working well. What do you think? Because the reason I feel the need to say this is, honestly, there are just some things I prefer to just keep to myself, because I know that nature abhors, detests inhumanity. And nature has been engineered to put into extinction whatever it is that is causing humanity to suffer. Nature has been designed to do so. It's only a matter of time, and that time is coming very close. Very, very close. So this is like what you will call the coming to Jesus moment, where for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. This is like preaching you off the cliff and preaching you off destruction. Like, there is a way that seemeth right to a man, but the end thereof is destruction. Let's not think or assume. Like I said, nature is engineered to do so. When God was bringing the people of Israel into Canaan, God made it abundantly clear to them. And I'm saying this especially for those who accuse God of being genocidal. I don't even know how some people think sometimes, but okay. Not okay, but well. God made it clear that the people I am chasing out of this land for you to come in there, you are not better than them. Go and read it. It's that God said that you're not better than them. Therefore, these are the things that they do that you must not do. Hence, that is where the 10 commandments and statutes and all of that came from. And when you read these things, the question I ask myself is, why would anybody even want to do this? Why would anybody have to be told not to do this? And in case they didn't know, God said these were the things that they did. And they've done it for hundreds of years, because God, time does not limit God, and God gives people time. But how much time will God give a destructive set of people? How much time do you think he's going to give them? Or should he give them? I mean, why should God allow a kingdom, for example, a nation, to keep throwing babies into fire? Why should God allow that? That was what was happening in Canaan before God brought the children of Israel in there. So this was not an issue of, you know what, you're all living peacefully and doing great things, but I want to come there and destroy it so that the people of Israel, my people, can get there. That's how some people describe God. And I'm like, where did you get that from? You've been talking to the devil, obviously. Because what? And archaeological findings have proven that yes, there were indeed places where there were ashes and bones of children, and they looked like what an ancient altar or an idol will look like. Those diggings. So God is supposed to let that continue. That's almost like saying that when a war is happening somewhere, let's just let it continue instead of dealing with the people who caused it. I mean, should we do things like that? No. I mean, you look at the 10 commandments. What part of it should anybody do? Should anybody desire the wife of their neighbor? I'm just asking. Oh, I'm asking. Should anyone covet the property of their neighbor? Like you have yours, oh, you have yours. But no, are you saying that's okay? Because when people have a problem with God's laws, I'm thinking, What kind of a what are you, a demon? Huh? What exactly is in the law of God that a human being should do? Which of it? The one that you say you do is too much. Can someone do the same thing to you? What exactly is it? Like, can we be specific? What part of God's laws do you not like? If you have established the one you don't like, should people be encouraged to break those laws at your own disadvantage? I'm just asking. I'm just asking. I'm just asking. I doubt you want that. But this live and let live thing has gone out of hand for too long. And righteousness, morality needs to be reinstalled. We can't continue to sin and say grace should abound. The Bible says, God forbid. When the children of Israel did the same things that their predecessors did, because, God is the original landlord. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that live therein. So the landlord can decide that, especially when there is a rule and you have signed it. You have signed that as long as you are living in this household or you are living in this house, these are the rules. You follow them, you're fine. You don't, I'm giving you an eviction notice. In fact, I'm evicting you. It's the landlord's right. And God is the original landlord of this whole world. He can decide at any time. And usually what makes him decide is when the wickedness is just much. There's a verse in the scripture that says God asked the earth, like, why, what is this? Ask the earth to account for the horror that has been committed on it. And the earth said, sorry, my Lord, I am innocent. These are the culprits. And then the earth spit out the culprits. Let's not do things that the earth will have to spit us out for. You understand what I'm saying? I don't think we are going to be having a general judgment, which means that both those who are guilty and those who are no. Just like not everybody is rich, and not everybody is poor, it's not everybody that will be judged either. Okay? it's like that. If we are not having general poverty and general riches, we can't have a general judgment either. So let's be clear on that. Don't think you can use proximity with religion or so-called spirituality to get away from whatever it is that you are funding, using, sponsoring, overlooking, that is against humanity. No, don't think that. No. It will be so specific. The judgment will be so specific and precise, it's not going to touch anyone else. As long as that person is innocent, they are saved. God handpicks people for judgment. He is that powerful. Unlike wars where both the innocent and the guilty die together, God does not operate that way. He handpicks, he picks out the culprits and deals with them according to their works. That's how God works. It's been a long one. I think this is like the longest podcast or talk that I've had at a stretch. But it's just necessary. And I pray that more people hear this and have a change of heart and resurrect their conscience and be humane again, right? And think about consequences more than benefits, temporary benefits. Think more of, this thing is nice, but the consequences thereof is damaging. And we are content enough to leave it be and not just damn the consequences all the time. It seems that's just what we do mostly, damning the consequences. How long are we going to continue damning the consequences? How has damning the consequences served us? How? It's not serving us. It's not. I pray that people hear this, not just because I want views or likes. It's encouraging to have those, but I really prefer for people to really listen and have a change of mind, a change of heart, a reorientation, a new resolve to care more for the environment, to care more for the living, to make a better space, a better world for themselves and for other people as well. What is better? Not the common good. There's a difference between the common good and what is best for all. Two difference. I think we probably know what the difference is, but yeah. Father, I thank you for this word that you have encouraged me to speak. It's been on my heart for a very long time, and today is that day that I say it, and I pray you, Lord, that this reaches as many people as it needs to reach, for our world to be better, for us begin to see positive changes in our world. We want redemption, not destruction. And we know that redemption often comes when we begin to do the right thing, when we restitute where we need to restitute and resolve things where we need to resolve things and stand up for what we need to stand up for and change what we need to change about ourselves. Not for ourselves, but for our world. Thank you, Father, God. Thank you, Jehovah, for everything. In Jesus Christ's name I pray. Amen. Till next time, guard your hearts with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life. Peace.